records. When did gold records actually become a thing?
I'm not sure.
Were they around when you started?
I believe they were, yes.
And now, are there fewer? It seems to me that there are probably fewer gold and platinum records today than back in the day because everybody's listening to.
Well, the answer is gold and platinum records were based on physical sales. Then, at some point along the line, the RIA came out with a thing about 15 downloads would be the equivalent of, I can't remember, was it an album or I can't remember. They came up so that you can still pass out gold records and platinum records.
But downloads, are you talking about downloads of albums? Because it's mostly singles that are downloaded, isn't it, these days?
Yeah.
And singles are the ones that are streamed. Nobody really streams a whole album.
No, but they became equivalent of sales. At some point, the RA came out with a formula that so many downloads or so many streams is the equivalent of X amount of an album or something of that nature, so that they can still award gold and platinum.
So records. Even streams, they have a calculation for it now? Oh, okay.
I don't remember exactly what it is at the moment.
All right, so moving to a different topic a little bit. So this one's very broad, but I wanted to ask, over the 70 years you've been doing this, the most significant change, in your opinion, what's the most significant change in the music industry? Two versions. The most beneficial, positive, significant change in the music industry, and the most detrimental or worse change that you've seen. Starting with what you think has been the best thing to happen to the music industry in the 70 years that you've been in it.
Well, much more sophistication on the part of representatives, of artist representatives.
You talking about lawyers, managers?
Yeah, lawyers, managers, agents. Yeah, more sophistication, more understanding of the business and how records are being sold, distributed, etc. A bigger share of the income pie by artists than ever. Remember, at one point, artists were paid pennies, very few pennies, on the sale of a record, and now they're making substantial deals with big dollars and all that.
So I'll come back to the negative side, but what accounts for, because when I see it, it's breaking into the music industry as an artist representative. It's very difficult. It's very competitive.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you a great quote from Randy.
I know this quote. Yes, go ahead and give it to me. I've heard you say this.
Breaking into the music business is like breaking into a bank after somebody just robbed it.
That was Randy Newman.
Yeah, Randy Newman.
So, but for the representatives, right? Because it's very competitive, it's very cutthroat. What do you think accounts for the increase in the level of sophistication? And also, wouldn't also the record labels themselves, who the representatives are negotiating against, wouldn't they also be more sophisticated now?
Well, they were always ahead of the artist representatives. The artist representatives started to match them in ability and knowledge.
And what accounts for that?
And demanding a bigger share of the pie. While I don't want to accuse publicly Motown was an example of paying paltry royalties, 1%, 2%, or something like that to their artists. Okay. And then taking their touring money and taking their merchandising money and things like that. There was Cap Records and Roulette Records and one after another of these record companies that would do this to artists. They would pay them paltry money and say to them, "Don't ask for anything else." Or there was War was under contract to Goldstein, and War would pay, and Goldstein would pay their rent and pay for their cars, and then if they asked for any royalty money, they say, "Hey, we'll stop paying your rent." That's what the business was, okay? That's what a lot of the business. every once in a while I'll see a contract like that, and of course I advise the artist not to sign it. But that's completely changed. That was the business at one time. That's why Etta James would not go out and perform a concert without them giving her cash in hand before she walked out on the stage, because they were ripped off. All these artists were ripped off. And so with the sophistication of the artist representatives and the record companies recognizing that they had to deal with that and had to deal with to be fair in their dealings, that's what changed in the industry over the years.
So I know that the record labels, and I'll not call out Motown, but it's a good example of the point. And I know you've talked about this in many of the lectures of yours that I've attended, where, because especially young artists just coming up, they have stars in their eyes, basically.
Right.
They'll sign anything anything that's put in front of them.
Correct.
And how, and you've also mentioned in those talks as well that, once they enter into a bad deal, the time they realize it's a bad deal, they come back and they blame you, the lawyer. So how do you counsel these artists? Maybe they only have a single deal proposal there, and how do you counsel them? Like, what if another deal isn't going to come along, but you see it's a bad deal?
I don't know if another deal is not going to. If they're talented, another deal will come along.
So how do you determine that? I mean, I know you don't listen to them, but is that what you tell them?
That's what I tell them. I tell them, if you believe in yourself, and if you have the talent, then you got to stick it out.
So, as far as this deal, what do you want to see for a new artist? We'll talk about some of your bigger artists later, but when you have a new artist that has not signed a deal before, what are the critical points and royalty rates that you're seeking to?
We talk about the amount of how much product, what the royalty rates are, what the advances are. The advances are not as important in early years, unless they need some living expenses, as is getting good product out there and making sure they're royalty positioned so that if they sell, that they can do well. And so I'm not so interested in the advances. So some artists they're all about advances, but it's not about advances. It's about sales. It's about getting the royalties from the sales.
And maximizing the percentage of royalties from the sales.
Correct. You're not in the business to get advances. You're in the business to sell records.
That makes sense. So, the ideal situation for any artist would be to be the subject of a bidding war. What was the first bidding war that you ever saw over one of your clients? And who was it, if you can say?
Well, actually, it wasn't one of my clients. It was I was doing the deal for somebody else's client, and I can't think of his name at the moment. It's an artist that eventually signed with Liberty Records. Well-known artist. He was not my client. He was one of my partner's clients, and I was able to jockey him into a bidding war. But I can't remember his name. He's done very well over the years. He was never my client, though, but I did the deal. But I can't remember his name.
Well, what about for one of your clients?
A bidding war. Well, I didn't have much of the way of a bidding war because the artists I represented were trying to choose not who's paying the most money, but which is the best company to be with which is the best company that understood them. My advice always to artists was, get to know the company that you're going to be signing with, get to know the A&R people, the president of it, and get a feeling for this company as to whether they really believe in you and whether they will kill for you. And that's the company we should go with. not the one who pays the most money.
So like when you counsel that of your client or to your clients, what factors are you looking for to convince you anyway as their representative that this is the company to go with?
It's an internal decision. You feel it. How do you know when you meet somebody whether she's going to be a good wife for you?
Let me just take this opportunity in case she listens to mention I knew immediately with Allison. Just in case you're listening.
No, you didn't know immediately.
No, not the first time around, but the second time around.
Well, okay.
Well, things changed. So the what was I going to say?
It's an emotional decision, and it's not a it should not be a financial decision. It should be, for the most part, an emotional decision. Finances come in somewhere along the line, obviously, but as to who believes in a particular artist and will kill for that artist, that's the label you want to be with.
Okay, so then on the downside, so in the last 70 years, what's the most significant change that you think that has been most detrimental to the music industry?
Mergers and acquisitions.
That was going to be my next subject. Was consolidation down to 3 majors good or bad for the industry? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So why has been sounds like your answer would be it's bad. Why is consolidation bad?
Well, I'll give you Courtney Love. When we were up fighting the RIA's attempt to modify the 7-year statute regarding record artists, she made a great. She was one of the ones that we had to testify, and she said, why going beyond 7 years is ridiculous, because you have to be the record company. Speaking with a record company, 7 years is a long time when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. As an example, she said, when I was a young artist, David Geffen came to me and says, "You come with me. I'm going to take care of you. I will do this for you. I will do that for you." So I signed with David Geffen, and then David Geffen sells his company to MCA, and then MCA sells the company to Japan and to a Japanese company. The Japanese company sells it to a whiskey company in Canada, and the whiskey company sells it to a waste disposal company called Universal in France. Now, who am I going to talk to in the waste disposal company when I got a problem? And that was one of the great lines of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why consolidation is not necessarily so good. If you were signed with A&M Records, which was a fabulous company, and you got an issue, you can talk to Jerry Moss, and if he believed in you, he guided you through. He made things happen. Now MCA goes with Universal. Who do you talk to at Universal? Where's the person who really loves you at Universal? They've got Motown. They've got A&M. They've got Island Records. They've got this record, that record. How do you get the attention from the person that's going to believe in your career and guide you through that career? That's why I don't like consolidation.
But do you need, like, if you are signed to one of those indies or minor labels that are owned by, say, Universal, when I was working there at Geffen, for example, Geffen was owned and distributed, I think at that time, by Warner. Can't remember if Geffen had sold it yet.
Yeah, Warner's financed them.
But the artists there would talk to David Geffen. They would talk to Mike Leisner. They wouldn't have to worry about going to, I forgot who was running Warner at the time, but they wouldn't have to go to the parent company.
Because it was a little bit different. They didn't acquire Geffen Records. Geffen went there and made a deal to form Geffen Records as part of Universal. So he was there from the beginning of any artist there.
But even saying that, I'm just using Geffen as an example because I worked there. Let's just say you're on Maverick Records, which is Madonna's label.
I can give you an example.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell was signed to Geffen Records, but now Geffen sells, and so now she's with Warner's, and she was very unhappy. She was really unhappy because she didn't have Geffen to talk to.
First of all, did you represent Joni Mitchell?
I did for a period of time.
Did you represent her in this period of time?
No, initially no.
But it sounds like you
I
talked to her about it.
Redid her deal at Warner's.
After Geffen?
Yeah.
But is that true in all circumstances? Like even present day, if I'm on a small label that's maybe the parent company is one of the three majors, don't for my sales themselves, aren't I still talking to the people at the subsidiary
yes,
company?
but I'm talking about a different situation. I'm about a situation where you started with that company. Now it's hello. Goodbye.
You know,
I get this all day long.
I know, and I keep telling you not to answer, but you do it
Well,
anyway.
I gotta get rid of this.
Caller ID. So you were saying it doesn't happen that way?
No, if you're with our what's the record company that we just went to an event? Republic Records. Republic is owned by Universal, but if you sign with Republic Records when they're owned by Universal, you're with Monty Lipman. Okay, fine, and he's there, and he continues to be there. But if Monty Lipman leaves because he gets bought out eventually, who do you talk to?
Don't they have people in place?
I don't know.
Okay. So you don't get the personal attention and service basically
Correct.
anymore as a result of consolidation. One thing I meant to ask about, in addition to Sound Exchange, was the Music Modernization Act. Well, I thought of something different, but for the Music Modernization Act, what was your role, if any, in that? And
I didn't have any direct role in that one.
what was your indirect role?
I didn't really have much of a role in that, except I complained about the fact that the board, the collective that collects the royalties for the songwriters and publishers, the board is composed of 10 publishers and 3 or 4 songwriters. I said that was wrong. I really voiced my, because I said at the Sound Exchange, we're 9 and 9, 9 label representatives and 9 artist representatives. And here you got the publishers, because of dominated that thing so much, it shouldn't be 10 and 4. It should have been an equal number, 7 and 7, if you wish.
Okay.
I thought that was wrong.
All right.
There was one other thing I thought was wrong, but I can't remember what it is at the moment.
That doesn't help me.
Now what?
That does not help me.
No, I know. I can't remember what the other is.
All right. Well,
I guess I'm boring Doris.
Because we're running out of time. Let me go, because in this anecdotes section, let me just talk about the first one. What are the biggest concerns you have for music artists, and have they changed over the last 70 years? And same question with respect to songwriters. So what are there issues today that music artists have that they didn't have back in the early days, or vice versa? Were there issues that they had then that they don't have today? Music artists.
Well, our artists today, because there's a broader selection of good representatives they have a choice of, are in better position. The royalties are higher. The deals are better for the artists. Overall, the concern for artists is make sure you side with the label or the company that really believes in you.
And would that have been the same advice you gave back in the early 50s?
Well, back then, the numbers were not what they are now. But the advice would be basically, my advice has always been side with the label that really believes in you, that you really know that the label that will kill for you. It's always been that. And that's still true to this day.
What about songwriters? Are the issues similar or different, or how?
Well, yeah, songwriters, at one point, almost all songwriters signed with a publisher and gave them a life of copyright. I'm absolutely totally opposed to giving publisher life of copyright. My question is, if you're going to sign for them, uh, don't give life of copyright away. Make a deal and give them publishing interest for a limited period of years and get it back after that.
What ideally, what number of years you think is appropriate to give the publishers those rights?
I would get them back as soon as the contract is over. So if it's a 5-year contract or a 3-year contract or a 4-year contract, you get the publishing back subject to recoupment of advances. My thing is not to give up copyrights. And I was successful in that thing with Rod Temperton in getting all his copyrights back. He owns Thriller, he owns Rock With You and Baby Come Back and one song after Boogie Nights and all that. He owns those things. Not Chuck. He originally signed with
Rod Temperton,
Irving Elmo, and he originally gave them the copyright. I negotiated to get it back for him, and he's dead now, unfortunately. But his wife has all this thing, and she controls all of this thing. What the royalties are, who to license, who not to license. For instance, one of the things that Rod was utterly opposed to, except in about 2 cases, was anybody using his stuff as samples. So
what were the 2 cases that he allowed?
I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment.
What did you say? Anybody using his stuff?
Samples.
Samples.
Oh, samples.
Because we're just about out of time, or we are out of time, but I just wanted to ask these 2 broad questions real quick.
Well, we're out of time, though.
I'm granting myself an extension.
Why are we out of time?
Because I'm limiting this to an hour. So what for music artists only? Because I'm going to talk later about some of the film and TV stuff. I really want to dive into that. But for the music artists, on both sides of the ledger here, what is the biggest mistake or mistakes you've seen artists make? And the other side of it, what's the best success story or stories that you've seen for music artists in, again, 70 years?
Well, the biggest mistake artists can make generally is entering into the wrong type of deal with the wrong type of person, or a wrong company.
But that's very general. Do you have a specific story about an artist that just really messed up their career or really did something that was a huge mistake and maybe later regretted or didn't regret? I don't know that you've seen. Like, if you were advising somebody, aside from get the best deal possible or avoid signing bad deals, what is like just a horrible mistake as an example that you've seen, or a couple mistakes?
Well, have an artist have their mother or father as their manager.
A momager.
That is so awful. I can't tell you.
And what about on the success? Like, what is the best example of a success story that for a recording artist that you're aware of?
Best example? Well, how about Katy Perry?
Well, tell me about that.
Well, she had 3 or 4 false starts, but same thing with Sheryl Crow. Same thing. With Katy, she came to town and signed with I can't think of his name. He's the original producer of Alanis Morissette. I can't think of his name at the moment. I signed with him. It went nowhere. Finally, I got her off that label. Then she signed with Columbia, and they promised her all kinds of things. Nothing happened. I got her off that label. Then she signed with a group, whose name I can't think of at the moment. That didn't go anywhere. I got her off of that. And then I got a call from Jason Flom, whose father's an attorney, by the way, who was then president of Capitol Records.
Who?
Jason Flom. And he said, I'd like to sign Katie. I said, great. And then he called me back a week later and said, I changed my mind. A week goes by and he calls me back and says, yeah, I'd like to sign Katie. And the first record was I Kissed a Girl. Big, gigantic hit.
That was one of the biggest.
And then I had this experience with Tina
Turner?
Tina Turner. Tina Turner was in middle career. She broke up with
Ike?
broke up with Ike Turner. And her manager asked me to see if I could get her a deal at Capitol. I did get her a deal at Capitol. Although I had a discussion of terms, and then the president at that time that I made the deal with was moved from Capitol to another division. The new people came in and said, "But we don't want to go ahead with this." I said, "You have to go ahead with it. We have a deal." So somehow I forced them into the deal. They made the deal. They went ahead. Her first record out was "What's Love Got to Do with It?" Big, gigantic smash. And then Tina Turner went to another attorney, went to Don Passman.
Oh. Which, talk about next session, not necessarily her, but the one last question is, for all attorneys, young attorneys, myself, just to know, because a contract is a contract, and you got Katy Perry out of 3 of them. How do you do that? Like, what's the approach there when you've got a written contract to get your client out of a written contract?
Well, a lot of it depends upon the person on the other side of the phone. Okay, and it all depends on the circumstances. By the way, one of the label I got her out of was Columbia Records. And then the president of Columbia Records, who was not that enthusiastic about her, and so I got her out. After I got her out to Capitol Records, and after she had this gigantic hit with "I Kissed a Girl," that same guy from Columbia Records becomes the president of Capitol Records.
Oh, you're kidding.
I can't remember his name at the moment.
But I mean, were there legal grounds? Are you signing the contract? Like, how do you?
No legal grounds.
So how do you convince someone to just let them out of the deal?
Great personality.
That's it, huh? Just your charm?
Yeah, my charm.
Well, okay.
There's no secret. It's luck. It's talking. It's convincing. I can't. There's no secret. I don't have a secret.
Well, it seemed to work out for Katy Perry. All right. I think we'll wrap it there. It's exactly 1 hour.
Well, you still represent her.
We do. We were just up to see her in Vegas.
All right, so I'm stopping there. It's exactly 1 hour. All right, please stop. You'll survive. Shows, right?
Yes, I represented Get Smart, a television show called He and She, a television show called McMillan and Wife. They were all produced by Talent Associates, which is David Susskind, Leonard Stern, and Dan Melnick. They were the owners.
I'm trying to remember, just because I know your beautiful, lovely wife, who was seated to your left, worked on the Carol Burnett show. Did you represent?
I did not.
Okay. But is that where you guys met?
We did not. We met before.
Smothers Brothers?
Yeah, quite before that.
We met backstage.
We met backstage at the Greek Theater.
At the Greek Theater. What show was that?
Nancy Wilson. I was representing Nancy Wilson, and Mr. Reese Richmond was joining the opening act called the Doodletown Pipers.
I remember the Doodletown Pipers. That's right.
So you're the one.
Huh? I am the one. So what year was that? Because I was what, like 4 years old.
1966.
66.
I was 3 years old. Okay. We're going to come back to that. But you represented the Smothers Brothers also, or not?
No.
Did you not the show?
No.
Oh, I thought
nothing to do with the show, other than to allow them to hire my wife.
Any
Although
other?
she wasn't my wife at that
I
time.
know you represent The Voice today, the production company that does The Voice, right?
Yeah.
What other TV shows have you represented over the years?
Well, as I say, the Get Smart show, McMillan and Wife show, he and she,